Hello, everyone. Thank you for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. This is Manny, and I am here with.
Hi, I'm James Hutt. I'm the senior game designer at our Talsorian Games.
And today we're going to talk about Black Chrome, the latest source book coming up for Cyberpunk Red that's come out February 2023. And it's all about equipment and items and all sorts of fun things you could add to your Cyberpunk Red RPG game. So first things first, it seems like this book has a lot of history behind it in its
Mhm.
creation. And this is not the first, well, it is the first book for Cyberpunk Red, but from your previous Cyberpunk games, this is not the first equipment book. Um,
No, there were four Chrome books for Cyberpunk 2020 that I think they were much loved, and of course they were in universe magazines full of awesome stuff. And honestly, I got into the game just by reading those. So this is Black Chrome. This is the first one for Cyberpunk Red.
hmm. And if I may ask, what would you say, besides being an updated version for the game for Cyberpunk Red, what were there any like thematic differences compared to the previous books?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, there's a whole time period difference between Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk Red. Uh, so, for example, one big thing is there's this overarching framing mechanism where it's an app. The whole book is presented to you as a marketplace app that is put up by a fixer at a night market, so that you can figure out what's at that night market. It's not magazine form. It's taken a more modern 2045 form. I think it's really cool, and one of the things I'm happiest about the book is how hyperlinked it is when you get it digitally. Look, I love physical books, but this one has buttons all over it in the page layout itself. And kind of, if you have the digital one on your phone, it's almost like you're in 2045 exactly there with an artifact from that time period.
Hmm. I, I've
So,
I've I've heard that the speaking of the digital version of this, that I heard that Art Talsorian has done a great job in hyperlinking everything. Like it's not like most PDFs where you kind of like it's kind of like the digital book. You just kind of tip through it, but you actually could click on almost anything. It'll take you somewhere.
yes, and that is all Jay Gray. That's his win, and we're happy that it adds to our team score. But he scored that point.
Oh, so going back to the origin of this book, I know it took some time to put all together.
Oh yeah.
Would you like to share some of the I guess you could say, I don't know if struggles is the right word, but kind of like the process of putting this book together. Like when did you decide like, okay, we need to make this book?
Well, I mean, from the beginning of the edition, we knew we had to have a Chrome. There are a couple of reasons the book took so long. Um, we'll get pandemic out of the way in the beginning. There's that. But also, almost every object you can buy in this book has art. That's that. There aren't a lot of magic item books, gear books in general in the entire hobby where everything has art.
Hmm.
So that's where you're looking at doing triple, quadruple the amount of art for this project as you might do for another project. So there's that.
Hmm.
The other thing is, it's the first one of Chrome. It's the first Chromebook for 2045. So we got to figure out how we want to do a Chromebook in 2045. And that adds a lot of time to the process. And then, we care so much about it and we love it so much, so we want it to be perfect. And that adds a lot of time to the process too. Um, but I'm happy that all those things are in the past now because it exists. And we can no longer go back to a time without Black Chrome. I'm happy the book's out, just like you're happy the book's
Hmm.
trust me.
And so let's get right into it. What type of exciting things, items, equipment are we expecting to see in this book?
Okay, so we have like 170 plus items in this book. So you'll find basically something for your character for sure. Uh, Going through the pages. Now, will you find a bunch of stuff for other people's characters too? Yeah, the whole book won't just be for your character. Um, but I mean, we've got guns of all kinds, of course. We have some cyberware. We have some like discount cyberware, which I think is cool in case you're trying to save money during character generation, or you want to get into those more street rat level cyberpunk ideas with your character. Like, there's something to be said for I want to play a character that's very street level in cyberpunk. You know, I want to have the eye that serves me a pop-up ad because I couldn't afford the other one. It's not like I couldn't buy it with my starting money. It's that I want to play the character that didn't. So we have all of these like street level items that are almost there for those engaged role players in the audience. We have all these great guns, and we have all these really bad guns. We have guns that have the old, like an old version. You know how USB-C and is like if you see it, you're like, not sure about that one. No, it's mini USB, right? Well,
Yes.
regardless, we have all these proprietary cables, and it does not seem to be a very good solution to any of these problems. We got a gun that has its own kind of smart link that's a proprietary cable. The problem being is if it gets disarmed from you when it plugs in, it just snaps right off.
Mm.
Um, we we've got a bunch of so other than weapons, it's also full of vehicles, which is really important for the Nomad class. Uh, Specifically, there's a new rule in the book that we plan on continuing the use of, called Nomad Access, which basically means that, I mean, I believe there's a there's a quote in 2020 that is the only difference between us and nomads is that nomads have cooler cars.
Mm.
And this rule, Nomad Access, ensures that no matter what happens, nomads will always have cooler cars. Basically, it lets them take one of the cool cars from the book instead of one of the stock cars in the core book whenever they get a new car. Anyway, that's important, and it allows us to really sort of open up the vehicles in the game. We've got some linear frames; those are cool. I mean, we have so much stuff in this book. You asked a very open-ended question. There's just so much stuff in the book. Uh, Linear frames in there that the SWAT team uses. We have some more of the like police armors in the book as well, and we have some guns used by the police. Um, so I mean, it really there really is a lot in there. A giant machine gun. We have a giant sword that eats through batteries and
Mm.
glows red hot. Like a We have some claws that are like micro textured
Mm.
to cause
If,
additional pain.
if I may ask, if you were in this world, is there any like items or maybe certain vehicles you would want the most, or not want the most, but kind of like it would fit better with your personality?
Oh, in this world. Um, well, I don't really know. I kind of feel like I would, if I was in the cyberpunk world, I'd still be a creative person and be writing and doing all this good stuff. Um, and I kind of feel like, honestly, at my heart, I know that I probably couldn't afford a vehicle in this world. If I was in the Cyberpunk Red world. But I think I'd want one that would let me get out of the city, because that would probably feel like a little bit of a information overload with my ADHD brain. I would definitely not want to be downtown. Um, yeah, there's a lot of there's a so uh, when I was doing the core book originally, and I was working on the Cube Hotel description, right? I was living in a micro studio that was extremely small. I don't live there anymore. I'm very glad I don't live there anymore. It was good to save some money though, uh, for a time. And the description of the Cube Hotel that's in the core book is a result of a nightmare I had in that in while living in that apartment because it was so small. Um, so it's you're things bleed back and forth more than you think. Um, yeah, I don't think I could afford a vehicle is the short version, but I think I'd want the camper. I forget what it's called, but it's got like it's got a pretty nice looking mobile home in the back and some nice tires. Get out in the Badlands and I don't know, drink a beer, nobody would bother you.
I sort of jumped the gun already, no pun intended, on this question before, but just so to be clear, those that have collected the previous equipment books for the previous system,
Mm-hmm.
is so when it well, so anyone that's a fan of your previous equipment books, when they pick this up, or is this kind of like an update of what equipment was listed beforehand in other books? Is this all like completely new, a mix of both?
This is totally new stuff. Um, that the old book was for 2020. This is for 2045. It's new stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's inspired, but there are almost no direct movements except for the cyber fingers. I will say the cyber fingers we loved so much, and they were so cyberpunk that they basically were perfect already, and they were lovingly updated.
Hmm.
Um, that would be maybe the one time I think that that is the case.
Hmm. Oh,
Some of
excellent.
the vehicles are heavily referential to other vehicles back in 2020. There is a tricycle, a trike
Hmm.
motorcycle that is heavily referential to a trike from 2020, for example. Uh, but I think you'll see familiarities if you're an existing 2020 fan, if you've got the Chrome books from 2020 in here, but it should feel like an evolution. Oh, and
Sometimes
I was like
oh.
4 when those books came out, so they're not my books, by the way.
Hmm. Um, so some equipment books have like new rules or new options for players. Is there anything like that for in this book?
So this is a pure equipment book. I will say there's one new option, which is the one we could not put in, which is the Nomad Access rule, and that essentially allows nomads to use vehicles that are not in the core book, and that will be in that is the only thing that falls in that category. But and that will be in every Chromebook we make.
Oh, okay.
That's
All right,
not
excellent.
special to this book. That is going forward. Um, yeah, I wouldn't. It doesn't have any more classes or races or whatnot.
Mm,
Not the type of setting for that.
mm. Is there anything about this book that I haven't asked you about that you want to share?
Oh, there are some apps in the book that are pretty cool. Um, they kind of flesh out the idea of what it, I'm picking up my agent, what is on my agent, right?
Mm,
Um, there are a couple of cool ones. There's like I would say the book in general is it's good for street level campaigns. It's got the street level items. It's good for if you're a lawman because it has a lot of interesting bits about lawmen in it. It's good for if you're a fixer because you've got all of the cool uh, night markets in the back with the descriptions of other fixers in Night City, which can act as like maybe I wanna give them a business deal. Maybe I want to have a business relationship with them. I'm a businessman too. Um, and of course, you're solo. There's all these new guns. Honestly, it's got something for everybody, and we are very excited to see what people do with it. And because it is Cyberpunk Red, last bit, is if you see something about an item you don't like, you can get it upgraded in the tank. So
Oh.
everything is inherently modular because we've got a whole role that makes the whole game modular.
Hmm.
Anyway, I guess that would be the summation. I don't know. I don't know.
So
I
I
guess
have
that's
one.
it.
So I
Give
have
me one
one
more.
more. I have one more question for you. And I apologize. I don't every creator, editor, writer hates this question. But what what's next? I know our Talsorian takes special care about what they take so much time making their projects. So sometimes something takes a while to come out. But is there anything in the pipeline you could share?
This year, Danger Gal dossier. Um, that's what we've got next up in the lineup. Danger Gal dossier is like, I'll just use the D&D term. It's our monster manual.
Mm.
But we don't have any, monsters in it, in so much as it's just here's a bunch of NPCs. Because sometimes if you're a GM, you just want a big book of NPCs to pull from. Um, and of course, it's all themed like these are all the dossiers that Danger Gal has on these people.
Mm.
And I do have a bit of breaking news announcement that might you might be the first to put out. I don't know. Um, it's on my phone. I have to pull it. Unfortunately, they so many different screenshots. Yeah, there we are. In Danger Gal dossier, we're going to have some gangs, and we have not announced which ones, sort of yet. But I'm just going to go down a quick list. Just
Mm.
fire. If you're not a Cyberpunk Red player, you probably won't know what these words mean, but they're cool, I promise. Um, the Maelstrom are going to be in the book. The Tiger Claws, the Piranhas, the NCPD, the Trauma Team, and Network 54. We're going to have NPCs from all those factions in that next book, Danger Gal dossier. And we're also going to have a precursor to this, what are the 6th Street in 2077.
Wow, wow. Um, you know, there when I'm playing a fantasy role playing game, if I need NPCs, if the system doesn't have it, a similar system may have something like it that I could use, but it's very few when it comes. There's very few options when it comes to cyberpunk or futuristic games. And the fact that your company's making it is really exciting. That's amazing. So I'm excited for that. I can't wait to talk to you about that in a future video. Um, so yes. Again, thank you very much for your time. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Yes, and this is because we keep getting this question. If you play Cyberpunk Red, every month there is free content on our website. It is canon, official content. If you miss it, you're just not reading an issue of a comic book. You might not know what happens in the next book. You're like, how did this character change? You're only watching the Marvel movies. You're not watching the Marvel TV shows. Thus, you're missing important things. You will be confused. They're called free DLCs. They're on our website, and we put them out every month. Something we're very proud of.
Mm.
So every month you get free content if you're a Cyberpunk Red fan. Who
And
else is doing
I'll.
that?
Mm. That's amazing. That's I'm glad you shared that because I thought that's really cool that how supportive you are to the fandom, about constantly giving out new information about different things.
It
Um,
just means I got to end every interview with that. Sometimes I begin interviews by reminding people.
hmm. Oh, that's a great reminder, and I'll put a link also for that in the description below.
Awesome. We'd really appreciate it. I'm sure the fans would too.
So,
Anyway,
viewers,
thank you so much for having me, man. I
of
appreciate it.
course, of course, of course, this is always great. Um, if we have more time, but viewers, thank you for watching. Be safe out there. We'll see you soon.